Is it starting?
Oops.
And we're
Hello.
At least that wasn't the doorbell this time. Bing bong. And we're live! Yeah, exactly. Hi, everybody. Welcome to. There we go. Welcome to episode 69.
69, dudes!
Of the Crafty Boys. We're a year and a half into this adventure. We've had a bit of a rough summer because our scheduling just hasn't worked out. And not to mention, this week, we don't have any beer in Vancouver. Dried up, all the beer's gone. All the beer has been moved and shipped over to Vancouver Island. This is, of course, Dave's fault. So thank you for coming by. Make sure you spread the word. Let people know that we exist. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Subscribe to other crap and talk to us on Twitter because we do stuff there too. How's it going, boys?
Pretty good.
Everyone's doing
It's
well?
hot.
fabulous.
It's like hot.
It's really hot.
It's almost like
hot.
you think it's summer.
You'd think so, especially since I have my air conditioner out. So
Holy.
that's what happens when
Yeah.
you live in a loft. You can't quite open your doors to make a breeze or anything, so you get an air conditioner, and that's what I did. Actually, I bought my
You
air
could
conditioner in
fart.
2008. Honestly, if you
Nice.
farted in this house, it wouldn't leave for at least an hour.
Really?
Which is why my pugs are upstairs on the roof hanging out with Allison. So.
Cool.
We've got a beer this week that was chosen by Dave. I would never know what it tasted like, but Dave got it. Dave, tell us about the beer you've chosen this week.
Well, it's actually a mystery. Because this is Attila the Honey from Mount Begbie Brewing. And that's about it. This label is one of the most minimalist labels I have ever seen. But I love the art. The artwork on this thing is wicked. You don't see labels like that very much at all. So, I have
It is
no
very
idea what this is meant to be, even. Because they don't tell you on the label whether it's a lager. Is it supposed to be a Pilsner? Is it supposed to be a hef? I don't know.
Well, according to their website, it's a rich amber ale.
Oh, okay, there you go. See, I didn't even get a chance
That's
to go look
what
on their
they
website.
claim.
It's
They
apparently
claim stand
has-
up.
it has distinctive malty characteristics, followed closely by the light, lingering taste of rich clover honey. It truly is the ultimate summer beer, even though it comes out in the spring, and apparently by midsummer isn't available anymore.
Except
Which is
shame about
probably why I don't have it. Now, I want to give
Yes.
you a story here. In Vancouver, according to the BC Liquor Board's website, there were a few liquor stores in not necessarily my area. They were farther away, and I did travel to them, and they were
a whole
apparently
10 minutes
available,
driving.
but actually it was 25. But anyway,
Oh my
so it's basically like me and Dave driving to Courtney or Camel River from where you live in the sticks. But essentially,
That's
so
my
I
point.
drove down. I drove to these places, and a couple of them, and even though the website said they had them, they didn't. I don't know why, but they said,
Liars.
"Oh, that one's gone." The beer stores that I normally go to, Legacy and Brewery Creek on Main Street, as well as the local at the walking distance mall, none of them had it. And the people at Legacy made fun of me because they said it was actually from the spring, which Alan mentioned prior to our launching of this episode. So basically, Dave, check your dates, man. Check your dates, because if you don't,
They never say.
come over there and kill you.
But they never say anything about
unfortunately,
freaking dates. Or
Okay, okay.
seasonableness.
No, this
I
this
would
well
I would
actually
like
I was going to leap into your defense and saying that they actually say seasonal summer and that's all they really say. So although
true.
apparently it came up before that, and this beer only has an international beer unit rating of 16.
Ouch.
So
Wow.
yeah, I don't know, man. Alan, if you can remember, we actually did a Begbie beer beforehand
Yes, we have once.
last year.
That was
Uh,
also my choice.
that really?
Yep.
Wow, I had no idea. I'm
And
just
it
trying
was
to remember
another
which
one
one
that
it
you
is.
could not find in Vancouver. And I don't
Really?
remember if I found it or not.
I think you did.
Did I?
Damn
Yeah.
it, Dave!
I was not the odd man out that time. I remember that.
It
It's my
was
bad.
episode 26 of the Crafty Boys from just not too long ago, from April, titled "I Begbie You for a Beer," and we covered the Begbie Cream Ale. So, Dave,
And that's not a seasonal. That's a regular one.
that is a regular one, yeah, which is probably
And
why.
yet, they didn't have that on the shelving when I went.
Well, here's the thing, Dave. There you go. So learn your lesson. But anyway, I don't know. I unfortunately I've struck out horribly this week. And
All right, we'll
this
stop
is not
talking
this.
about it. Let's try
This
the
has
beer.
not just been this beer. It's actually been a lot of beers, and Vancouver seems to be stifling my beer choice. Drink the beer, you jerks, because I'm gonna sit here and be jealous
All
as all
right.
hell.
I'm cracking this one open.
Yep.
Open a beer much?
I like the smell.
Now, I'm interested to see how this compares to the St. Peter's Honey Porter. I don't know if you guys have ever tried that.
Nope. Who's that from?
Oh. It's it's from a brewery called St. Peter's.
Oh,
It's
that's
from England.
Okay. Sounds all posh and stuff.
In fact, it comes in a weird shaped bottle. It's like a medicine bottle. It looks like.
Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, so let's try this. So this is the Mount Begbie Attila the Honey.
I like the color. It's a great color.
By the way, I just received an email from our fellow compatriot Locke about a minute ago. He sent a photograph of him, what looks like he's laying on a floor, staring at a wall that has a huge hole in it.
That sounds ominous.
I just asked him what he's staring at, and I will give you a further update if he responds.
Maybe there's stairs in there, and he's wondering where the stairs go. They go up.
Unfortunately, that's not.
Maybe it's an access point to an alternate universe or something like in Poltergeist.
You know, quite honestly, that would be awesome. I would love to go to an alternate universe. Have you guys seen the Netflix show Stranger Things?
I have not. My son is actually watching it, and he says it's kind of.
I have totally seen it.
It is pretty epic, Alan. I recommend watching it because it's like watching the 1980s.
Okay.
I second that.
It's totally worth it. I burned through it in about 3 days, or less. And it's going to have a sequel because the CEO of Netflix stated last week or the week before, we would be stupid not to do another one. Which is, and this is the interesting thing about ratings and television and all these kinds of things is that they already know in way more detail what things people are watching, and the best example I think is that the only reason the television show House of Cards was ever created by Netflix, pardon me, is they saw a lot of films and television shows from the last 20 years, stuff that they've had on their network, that have uh, proven to be incredibly popular. And then somebody said, we've got all these political shows that are doing really well, things that have some sort of politic kind of angle to them. And then we have all these Kevin Spacey films. And we have to say that if there's a political thing that Spacey's been in, those kind of spike in the middle. So that's why House of Cards got made. They're like, let's take Kevin Spacey and ask him if he wants to be involved in a political television show produced by us. And they married those two together. And now you have, 5 seasons of House of Cards with a couple more on the way, kind of thing.
Wow.
And winning awards too. So.
Cool. So back to the beer.
Yeah, back to the beer.
Dave, what are your thoughts?
Well, as usual, unfortunately, I can't say that I'm picking up a whole lot of honey.
No?
But it doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it. It is definitely a summer beer, isn't it? It's the kind of thing that you're going to have with your burgers out in the backyard. At least that's my sense of it.
I'm not one to really pan a beer, but I'd have to say this one's kind of bland.
Yeah,
it's
not,
like it's fairly watery.
Yeah.
I am detecting a slight bit of honey, but it's maybe only because I'm expecting it because it's in the name of the beer. If I didn't know that this was a honey beer, I probably wouldn't taste it. Otherwise, it just seems like a typical ale.
Yeah.
Good on them for on Mount Begbie Brewing for trying to put together something a little bit different. I don't think I would ever get this one again if it were up to me. And interestingly, I mean, I've tried the St. Peter's Honey Porter before, which is imported from England. I recommend if you're into trying a beer that has a distinctive honey flavor. Dave, I don't know if you'd like it because it does have a bit of a bitter flavor to it. But the St. Peter's Honey Porter is actually quite good, and the honey flavor is quite distinctive.
Well,
so if you're going for a honey beer, I would try with the St. Peter's Honey Porter.
Can you get that at Cascadia, though?
Pardon?
Can you get that at Cascadia?
I believe you can, yeah.
I'll have to look for that then.
Yeah. It comes in a little green bottle. The bottle is, if you're looking down from the top, it's oval shaped. It doesn't look like a traditional beer bottle. But it's an interesting beer. It's not something that you could really drink, sit down and drink like, 3 or 4 of them in one go. I mean, you have the one and you're good, right? But
You've had one. You're good now. Stop drinking now. You've had enough. You don't need to have
it's
any
not
more.
that you had enough. I doubt you'd want more than one, just because it does have that bitterness to it. I wouldn't say it's an easy drinking beer. It is a flavorful beer, though.
Okay. Dave, your opinion.
Well, I don't mind this, but that's probably partly because I'm not, super up on my beer flavorness, right? But as far as wateriness, I think this is not the worst that I've tasted for something that's kind of water. Like, I know we've had one in the past that basically made me think of that. It was really light. It was really mild. There wasn't much to it. And this doesn't remind me of that beer at all. It's not bad. Like, if somebody had this at a party, whatever, and they said, "Here, do you want a beer?" I wouldn't turn it down.
No, me neither.
Um,
It's beer. It's free beer. Are you
yeah.
kidding me?
Well, no, I guess my point is you could do worse. Put it
Yes,
that way.
absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, it's fair enough. It's not one of the more complex beers we've
Yeah,
ever
it's
done.
not complex.
That's for sure.
Just as a side note, just as we're describing it and I'm drinking it, the flavor of the honey is becoming a little bit more prominent in the last couple of gulpfuls. I'm kind of wondering if it needs some time to breathe before you're supposed to drink it.
Are you
So I'm
guys
gonna
drinking it right out of the bottle?
Oh no.
I've poured mine in a glass. I'm gonna let mine sit for a few minutes and go back to it and see if anything changes. Why don't we move on?
You've actually got a couple of articles that you provided this week, Alan.
Yeah, I thought that would
Both
make
are
good
kind of
discussion.
epic. The very first one, hailing out of the Independent, is Mildred Bowers. Is a 102-year-old woman who credits beer for her long life. She drinks a cold beer every day at 4 p.m. as per her doctor's orders. This
That's awesome.
is a health plan I could get behind. Um, because it is interesting how she could do her own podcast and just bury us. So she says she was got the go-ahead from her doctor to drink a beer on a regular basis after sharing her love for the drink with nurses at her assisted living facility. She said that doctors immediately approved, and she now has a pint, just one, every day at 4 p.m. Whether or not other seniors should adopt the practice, of course, she says yes, they totally should if they like it. So I don't know. Are you guys behind this as well? I mean, this is the thing: is that 102 years old. I kind of want to live longer than that. So if beer is going to be the saving grace, that's what I'm going to do. Because I think I would be an idiot to not. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't know if beer is responsible exactly for her living as long as she has. Yes, beer is responsible, definitively. That's it. Everybody
The science
drink
is
a
out.
lot of beer.
It's happened already. Everybody be quiet. No, but seriously, I think the numbers are in. Everyone has already agreed. I'm sorry. The jury has left the building. No, I mean, granted,
You know what?
there's
It's
no
awesome.
way that beer has of course granted her incredibly long life, but
Maybe it's the happiness that beer gives her that has allowed her.
true.
You know,
Um,
people
you
with a
never know
laid
because
back, sort of relaxed attitude tend to live longer. Look at George.
exactly.
I mean, look at George Burns. You could like, how many cigars did he smoke a day? I mean,
Lots.
he could say I credit cigar smoking for my long life.
Well, I remember back when he was it when he had the hell was the film? I can't remember, but essentially he did credit basically his just will to live. He says, "No, I'm living till I'm 100. Forget it. I'm not dying before that." And of course, everybody was like, "Oh, well, you're probably gonna croak at some point, a lot sooner than that." And he's like, "Nope, not gonna happen." Um, which is kind of cool because his wife died in like the 60s, I think. I think it was like 63 or 5, somewhere in there.
Mm.
And he credited her for his long life as well. But he definitely did. I really think that it was his will to live. He's like, "No, I'm not dying. Sorry, thanks very much." It's kind of like interesting. You're laying in bed at night. You wake up in the middle of the night. The Grim Reaper's there. He's like, "It's your time," and you just pull out a 45 and you shoot him in the face. And it's like, "Come back tomorrow." You know, you go back to sleep, and you know, just did that over and over and over again. I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said for that. For people living a really, really long life, is that you essentially don't give up. You don't kind of resign yourself that you will die eventually, because we all will. But at the same time, it's kind of like, but not today. Not gonna
But you
happen
know what?
today. You know.
I don't know if it's maybe just sort of like the West Coast Canadian lifestyle or whatever, but people living to 102 isn't exactly rare anymore. Um,
That is true, and it's going to get even longer because I
I
mean,
read actually, this is really depressing, but I read the obits every day, and more and more
really?
yeah, I
What?
am.
Why?
Yeah. Well, partly because of what I work.
Yeah,
Uh,
I suppose.
for people who don't know, I work at a cancer treatment center. So sometimes I check to see, which of our patients have moved on. Uh, you know, um, and I've been noticing that the average age that people are passing is getting higher and higher and higher as time goes on. Where I'm seeing people who were born regularly in the 1910s and 20s are the ones that are dying right now, not the ones who are like 70 or 80 or something like from 20, 30 years ago. If you lived to be 80 30 years ago, that was considered to be an extremely long life, and now that's almost considered young.
100?
That's true. 80.
No,
Or
80.
80, 80. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, 80 is almost considered to be young. Almost, not quite, but it's getting there. And I've heard it say, and I don't know if this is credible or not, but the first person who lives to be 1,000 years old is already alive now.
Really?
I've heard that
Me, this guy right here, this
right here,
guy.
right here.
Um, well, I mean, that potentially is true. I mean, considering that supposedly, I mean, all of the stuff that I've read, that the Generation X is going to be like the children of the boomers, are going to be the first generation to regularly, and this is what I remember reading, regularly live to 100 years old. So in theory, not because we're particularly healthy, but because we are going to be, in the next 20, 30 years is when that sort of next leap of medical technology is going to be able to grant us that. So by the time we're in our 60s, even into our 70s,
Yeah.
we're going to be able to replace body parts. I mean, right now, recently I've read a whole bunch about 3D printing
3D
your
printed
own.
body parts.
Apparently you can scan your own heart
Yeah.
somehow, and they will be able to print a 3D lattice work of exactly the framework of your heart, and
Yeah.
then they can take your tissue and grow new muscle around that. Um, so there's going to be, I mean, here's the thing: we don't really understand what technology is going to do in 30 years. We've had enough trouble coping with it for the past 30. So who knows what's going to happen? Um, but the reality is, the only thing that's going to happen is that we are going to be able to live longer. Um, I hope not head in jar longer, but we're eventually going to be able to replace body parts. We're going to replace organs. We're going to be able to grow our own shit. So, and
Ew.
the whole idea of not shit exactly, but no, like all of that stuff, we're going to be able to, without having to develop clones that we'll have to murder in order to get the body parts, not, creating robots that are going to sit and look at us across the table and go,
So no
I've
dystopian
seen
future for you.
things that you could not possibly imagine. I've seen warships burning off the blah blah blah. So anyway, yeah, I'm excited about it, but at the same time, I don't want to, bet on the fact that I'm going to live longer than my parents, because very soon my father turns 70, and my mother's not far behind. So by the time they hit that age, you can't help but do the mental math in the back of your mind, going, okay, I'm 43 this year,
You know
so
what? 70 is the
you
new
know.
50.
Well, exactly. This is the thing: is that you have all these benefits already, but push that another 30 years, and what is going to be possible? Who knows?
70 is going to be
Um,
the new 18.
I certainly hope so, because I would love to have some hot loving with
Okay,
some
okay, hey,
rowdy
let me ask you.
70-year-olds.
Let me ask you something. Do you
Yeah.
guys like feel your age?
From time to time I do, mainly because my exercise regime pushes myself harder, and I know that probably 20 years ago I definitely wouldn't feel as bad some days, because you put like actually 2 days ago I did this wicked leg uh, ab butt thing, which is basically a lot of squats, a lot of lunges, a lot of
Yeah,
this kind of
yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and I pushed myself farther than I normally would go, which is what you're supposed to do. And I'm still like right now I'm sitting in a chair at my standing desk because I stood most of the day, and when I sit down and when I get up, it's like I'm 75 years old going, "Oh god." But every few hours I've actually been getting on the floor and stretching, but at the same time I just know I pushed myself a lot further and my muscles are just figuring that out.
Yeah.
But those are the times that I feel my age. The rest of the time, no, I feel like I'm 22. I'm
See,
glad I'm not 22. I am so glad I'm not 22.
what?
I've
I wish I
actually,
was
well,
22.
okay, I wish I was 22 with a 43-year-old brain. Um,
Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right.
if
But you
that's if
know what?
that's what you're
I
saying.
had that brain when I was 22. I was so much smarter than you.
Do you see the eyebrow?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but here's the thing: is that it's very interesting because I teach people to vlog and things. I have a lot of subscription to vloggers. I've got a lot of subscriptions to sort of video makers and things like that. And I know 3 or 4 months ago, I actually was kind of looking at the list because I was unsubscribing to ones that were no longer posting, and I realized that of all these like several hundred subscriptions I have, a lot of them, I would say more than half, were probably under the age of 30. That were sort of ranging between say 20 and 27-ish, somewhere in there. I mean, I haven't actually done the math, but essentially my guess is around then, because those seem to be the most prolific vloggers out there. Because
Mhm.
there's a whole segment of them that actually make money doing that kind of thing. There's a whole segment that are very specialized, like they've gone to school and they're doing stuff specific to the education that they've done. Um, but I realized that the vast majority of them, the ones that here's the interesting thing that I did notice, the ones that are the most I'll say educated. That's not what I mean, but I mean the ones that are they're more focused on education
Mhm.
and certain topic areas, are vastly female between say 22 and 26, where the males around that same age are just like doing something that's entertaining. Not that entertaining to me, but they definitely have an audience of younger people. And it's interesting just how over the last few years, a lot of these groups, the ones that are getting the most success are the ones that focused on the education component, where the ones that were kind of just goofing off, they've aged a little bit, but their audience has also aged, so they're having to morph and change and do different things, which I find
Mhm.
really fascinating. And um, however, the point of me bringing this up, to answer your question, they're really not where I would like to be in my life right now. Like, there's definitely some common things that you struggle with your entire life, and I mean, I have friends that I've met online and things that are in their 60s and 70s already, and they talk about the same crap that these 20-year-olds are talking about. So it's kind of interesting. It's like, okay, well, there's these definite common threads throughout your life, and regardless of how old you get, you still struggle and learn and all kinds of things. Um, but the other component of that, when they talk about relationships, when they talk about sexuality, when they talk about those kinds of things, are very much alien to me. But alien in that way of like, bitch, I already went through that like 20 years ago, so hurry the hell up and get more interesting because I'm kind of getting bored now, which is really fascinating because it's kind of mean because you're like, shut up, 20-year-old, 24-year-old, 25-year-old. But at the same
you're
time,
not the
I kind
audience,
of like that.
right?
Well, that's what I mean. I'm definitely not the audience in a lot of their cases, but I'm interested in their process because I, try and get. Here's the thing that's very interesting. Trying to get somebody who comes into my office and says, I want to do this, this, and this. I want to become more popular online. I want people to notice my company or myself or whatever it is they're talking about. But they never, ever do the work. They refuse because they're older, so they don't quite click. They don't quite know what they want to talk about, and they struggle to find that sort of topic that they're interested in is the biggest thing. If they're not interested in the thing that you're talking about, people know right away, and your audience will never grow like that. It just won't. And then there's the other components where they just struggle with the thing of they're just a bit that much older, where they look at somebody who's 24-ish is sort of the average age, I think, for a lot of them anyway, who look at it and go, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? I'm because they're not that audience, they don't recognize the tools of, well, you take the camera, you put it on a thing, and you pick one topic and you talk about it as much as you can until you're done, and you've filled 5 minutes. Done. Yeah. Easy. Post that online and do that 100 times, and you'll get better at it, and be able to improve, and you'll also be able to figure out if you actually pay attention to the stats, which is the biggest problem with most of these people that walk into my office is they don't understand that the stats are important, but if they do know that stats are important, it's usually important for about 10 minutes, and then 6 months down the road, they haven't looked at them for months. So it's trying to encourage people to do that kind of thing, which is the biggest struggle in my sort of world of where I live all the time. But I have to say that pointing people at these younger groups are so important because the younger groups, they have not got to that age yet where they have they've advanced beyond somebody who's in their 40s today, because I always think of it this way: when you're in your 20s and 30s, you worry about what people think of you. When you're in your 30s, when you're in your 40s and 50s, you start to lose that. Or if you haven't lost it already, you really start to lose it because by the time you get to retirement age, when you're in 60 and above, you just don't give a shit. It's like the 102-year-old drinking beer. I don't care what you think because I'm drinking this beer, and whether you think it's healthy for me or not, that's what you get in response. But when you're 25, there's just no way you're going to do that unless you have practiced it, because it's actually a skill. It's not naturally something that people develop because, we're these little brain components living in this thing that we call a body, and it's very hard to break out and figure out that there's other people out there. So. Anyway, enough of me blabbering because I just totally started talking about work, which is I know.
You need a beer, dude.
I do. I have. Okay, here's the thing. I have right now at this very moment in time, I have 60 liters of beer. I have 24 liters of cider that I have to bottle in the next few days. I have 18 liters of red wine and 18 liters of white wine.
You got a problem, dude.
But I can't drink the beer because it's not done bottling yet. It's been bottled, but it needs to sit for a couple weeks. The stupid thing is,
so you're bottle conditioning it.
I'm conditioning it right now, and
how long has it been conditioning?
I made a Ruby Tears clone for the past few weeks, but I bottled it on Saturday.
Yeah, it's still
and so it needs to sit for at least, at the very earliest, another 8 or 9 days.
Well, how is it plastic bottles?
It's plastic bottles. No, I don't do glass.
Do they feel tight?
Glass grenades.
Do they feel really tight?
The Ruby Tears, not yet. No, I was actually just testing them. So, but the stout that I made needs about 6 months at least to sit. and the bottles are solid. So
I would
because
say that it's done. I'd say it's done. I made a
well,
stout. I didn't let it
I
sit
took
that
I
long.
took the stout out a few weeks ago, and it's still syrupy. Like it still tastes sugary.
Really?
So oh yeah, so it needs to sit for quite a while. Um, but again, it's my first stout, so I might have used too much stuff
Yeah.
thing. Anyway, so I think this coming weekend I'm going to do another wort boil and make an IPA. Because I bought supplies for 2 batches of IPA, so I might have another 66 liters or so. I don't know. Maybe I'll wait and just do one. Who knows?
Wow.
Anyway, the other article you brought, by the way, which by the way, I'm not drinking all this beer. I would say, in my experience so far,
You're only
when you
going to drink most of it.
when you take beer to the roof, in my building, a lot of my neighbors drink most of it. And they're very happy with it. Anyway, enough about that. Moving on to the next article. Inside North Korea, the first ever beer festival where visitors thank Kim Jong-un for alcohol. Go.
This is like fascinating to me. It's like, so North Korea, I didn't even know they had beer. But not only do they have beer, they actually have a festival for it. And it's not like our festival, which lasts 2 days. This festival is 20 days long in Pyongyang, and among the beers in this thing is what did they say here? I think they said there's 7 beers. There's food that's available. It's being attended by 800 people a day. That's maximum capacity for the venue. They show lots of pictures in the article of locals enjoying the beer, thanking their leader for the ability to drink to their heart's content. Shows a couple sitting at a table with the peace sign, all happy and everything. Off the sides of the picture is obviously the soldiers with the guns pointed at them. A kid, I hope. Also, apparently, there are Westerners that have been going to this event. There was, I guess, somebody is running a tour and brought 100 tourists to this beer festival in North Korea, and they've all enjoyed it, and some of them said that the beer tastes just like at home. It's a lot of the beer is only available in North Korea, but the New York Times gave a review on one of the beers and called it a full-bodied lager, a little on the sweet side with a slightly bitter aftertaste. So it looks like a pretty cool event. I don't know how much of it is being portrayed realistically to us here in the West, but it's interesting. I didn't know that North Korea was into that, but yeah, good for them. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Dave? Thanks, Dave. Thanks for your report. Back to weather with Dick. Wow, dude. So, Dave, what do you think? Dead silence.
You gonna say anything, Dave?
When I get a chance to, yes.
Okay, here it is.
Sorry,
go.
Now we've just been riding him hard. Go ahead, Dave. Go. Make us proud.
Right. No, I do wonder if their comment about it being this propaganda thing is, that's pretty much it. He's just trying to kind of tailor things how the people inside the country see him, and also hoping that it'll have an impact outside the country too, because people will see maybe he's not quite the total, kind of classic dictatorial hard ass that everybody knows that he is, really. I don't know. And to me, I'm like, 800 people, really?
800 people
Like
is not a lot.
the beer fest in Victoria does how many thousand people in
7,000
2 days?
a day.
7? So 14
7,000 a
over the
day.
course.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So about 14,000 people over the course of the festival.
Yeah.
And they're making a big deal about 800.
Per day. But that's for 20 days.
That's true. And I guess that the way they're talking, the actual site, which is just one little restaurant, is pretty small, right?
Yeah, it looks like they've only got 7 breweries at this festival. So
Yeah.
we get through. If this was a Great Canadian Beer Fest, we get through it pretty quickly.
Yes.
But whatever. You know what? Even if it is propaganda, it's still interesting. And the fact that there's Westerners that are going there. I don't know why any Westerner would want to take a chance and go to North Korea, given that you breathe wrong and you get shot or find yourself in jail for like the rest of your life.
I don't think that North Korea is that bad.
No?
Compared to
No.
compared to other places around the globe. Like if you look at and this is because I was looking at this a little while ago. If you look at the Canadian government's website about countries not to go to, North Korea, at least at the time I was looking, was actually not that bad. They were like, yeah, sure, it's a regime, blah 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 blah, but the chances of anything happening to you is pretty, it's pretty low.
But I thought they were pretty strict about not letting people in.
They're strict about not letting people in, but of course they're strict about, they do let people there, but because they do want a better industry to happen for tourism. But it's not like you're going to Afghanistan, where I have a client who wanted me to go there to teach some of the locals the software that I use all the time, and I said, yeah, that was great. No, what a great idea. So I contacted the embassy in Kabul and said, hey, I want to go there. What do I need to prepare for? What do I need to do? And the first thing they said was
guns.
Well, actually, yeah, they basically said don't. Well, they didn't basically. They told me don't come here. Don't come here. You are white. You are not going. You're going to stand out. And right now, it's really a bad time for kidnapping, for suicide bombing, all this kind of stuff. So we recommend that you don't come here unless you absolutely need to be here. There's enough trouble already. So I said, okay, that's pretty awful. So I guess I shouldn't go. And they said, and that's actually was the next conversation was, if you decide that you have to be here, that if you are going to come here for work or whatever, that you need to make sure that you file a copy of your will with a lawyer, that you do, what was the other thing? I can't remember, but they wanted you to hire security for when you were here. And here's the thing, the organization that I would be going with also has their own sort of partnership with a security thing and the UN and all these kinds of things. And quite literally a few months ago, around the time where they were asking me this, and I didn't really put two and two together, was, oh yeah, the place that we normally have people stay in was blown up. So a large tractor trailer van thing showed up in front and leveled the entire compound. But to them, it's par for the course. This is a day at the office, where I was sitting there going, oh, that's awful, da, 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 da. And then 2 months later, when they were asking me to go, I was like, but what about the thing where you said I might have stayed, that it blew up? Chances of something happening,
Jesus.
chances of something happening are pretty small, but at the same time, that pretty small has some serious consequences of you might blow up, and
They're like, look at the bright side. You'll have 72 virgins.
wow. But it was a conversation of like, hey, honey, one of our clients who's really cool, does some really good work there, wants me to come and help a little bit, and then she said, well, did you look at the thing? And I'm like, yeah, here's the warnings for people, and she's like, yeah, no, you're not going. And that was kind of it. So I said, well, I'll have to think about it, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it because it's not just me making the decision. It's actually other people I know. But at one level, what a great adventure it would be. I mean, that was the first reaction I had. Is like, holy shit, that would be awesome. How many people do I know are going to go to this place in the world? And it's going to be cool. It's going to be a culture shock. I'm going to be able to teach some people some cool things that they don't. I mean, this is the thing. This is a country that we hear about in the news all the time, but we don't actually hear about the stuff where if you want to get a book, it's like asking for a chunk of the moon. It's like, I want this book. They could actively go onto like Amazon and say, that's the book I really, really want. Can they get it there? No, because they don't really have a mail system. They don't have addresses, and this is actually the big thing I learned was the people that are there, they have an office and a compound for where people are staying, and they had to fight tooth and nail just to get somebody to go, oh, you actually want numbers on the outside so people actually know what the address is? I'm not sure what the address is. I'll have to find that out for you. And like 3 weeks later, they found out they had an address. They actually had one. Does anybody else on the street have an address? They do. Do they actually have it on the front of their building? No. Because what does it matter? They know where they live. Their friends know where they live. People they want to see know where they live. But who else is going to care? They have no postal system. FedEx and those guys don't go there. So, you can't. It's such a brain shift of like, well, why did you just go down to the bookshop and get? Oh, this is actually the best part. I'm rambling again. Sorry, guys. One of them said, yeah, we bring books in our briefcase in our suitcases and bring them to the local bookshops because they ask for certain things. And they said they went there one time going, okay, we got some of these books. One was for like software development. One, there was a bunch for like reading enhancement stuff. And they said they were in the store and they noticed that there was a bunch of Richard Dawkins' God is Not Great there, all in English. So the chances of the reality is that the people running the bookshop and the people shopping there didn't actually know what the book said. So, there's just that weird thing where they just take whatever they're given regardless of what it is, even if it might piss some locals off. But again, there's all these sorts of things that have nothing to do with beer. So I'm going to shut up. Blah, blah, blah. Shane's talking again. But again, back to regimes in North Korea.
Back to the beer for a second. I finished my beer. I let it sit for a bit to see if the flavor of the honey would come through a little bit more. And it did a little bit. A little bit. Not a lot. Not as much as I was hoping. But a little bit. So, I mean, there is that.
Don't yawn, Dave. I heard you.
You heard nothing.
So before we wrap up, just as an aside to Shane was talking about how it would be such a great adventure to go to Afghanistan, but there's all the danger and all that kind of stuff. I was checking out a documentary on Netflix this week. It's about what drew me to it is it's a documentary about the actor who plays Big Bird on Sesame Street.
Oh yeah, I've actually wanted to see that.
And what drew me to it is the rating on Netflix for it is rated R. And I thought that was kind of so. I was expecting that he was like going to be like a crack addict or something and shooting up while he's in the costume and stuff. No, I think it was a misprint. I don't think it should have been rated R. But it was interesting at one point in the 80s because Big Bird was like this huge phenomenon. It still is, but especially it was in the 80s. And I guess NASA was saying, kids aren't as interested in the space program anymore, but they're hugely interested in Big Bird. So they came up with a plan, and they contacted the actor, and his name escapes me for a second here. They contacted
Finney something.
Carol something.
Carol Spinney.
Carol Spinney, and contacted him and said, "We want to put Big Bird in space." So Carol Spinney was like, he says to his wife, so NASA wants to send me into space. That sounds really dangerous. I don't know if I should do it. And his wife says, it is dangerous, but you'll never get another opportunity like this. And he's like, yeah, you're right. So he decides to do it. Then they end up canceling it because they realize the Big Bird costume is too big to put in the space shuttle. So they replaced him with a teacher.
Oh,
that was the Challenger disaster.
Jesus.
Wow.
He narrowly missed on being on the Challenger.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, if that doesn't
really
give
stuck
you
out.
tingly spines, I don't know what will.
I know, totally, right? His first instinct was to say, no, it's too dangerous. What if an accident happens? And then they say, well, they go up all the time and nothing ever happens, and it's a great opportunity. You got to do it, and narrowly misses. And he would have done it too if it hadn't been for the costume being too big to realistically take on the space shuttle.
Yeah. Wow.
That is terrifying in a lot of ways, but that is amazing. That is a little bit of history that is like, wow, that is amazing.
It's an interesting documentary. I recommend people watch it.
I know it just popped up. Like it's a fairly new one, so I'm interested in checking it out.
And it's interesting. He still plays Big Bird.
Yeah, I know he's not retired.
Wow.
He doesn't play Big Bird all the time, but
there was actually a lot of Carol Spinney. That's his name.
Yeah.
The dude face that plays. They got rid of a bunch of the actors that play a lot of the different characters, and I gather they've hired them all back because the backlash was like, I beg your pardon, you did what? You got rid of Gordon? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? So I gather that's all been sorted out. Like Bob especially, my God, he's back too apparently. So, I got to say that there's absolutely these characters that are so incredibly important. But anyway, I'm going to start blabbering again. It's going to be quiet. So at the end of this episode, this is episode 69.
69 dudes!
Excellent. But anyway, thank you again for listening. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for checking us out. We are just a bunch of dudes who like to drink a lot of beer and talk about that beer and hopefully give you good advice, or not, about what beers one should drink and what beers you should probably avoid. So spread the word. Let people know. Subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, if you drink bad beer, it wasn't our fault. You didn't listen to us.